Okay, welcome, welcome again. We had a wonderful day with wonderful lectures by wonderful speakers. I hope you were all you learned a lot. I learned a lot. I got very inspired. I would like to ask the speakers a reflection on the day, and then afterwards we can ask. You can ask some questions, and we do this for about 1 hour. Well, we just see how it goes. Okay, so I will start with you, Ole. Maybe you can reflect on the day and the things you saw and the people you saw, I don't know.
I just want to say I think it's amazing that you're here. I thought everybody had gone home. So I just think I learned a lot, and I'm really happy that so much here is about inspiring instead of just going into dark, because it's so dark anyway. So at least I need to have some uplifting, not just go down into a black hole even deeper. So I salute you all. I think it's amazing that you're here, and it's a real honor, and I'm very happy that you invited me.
Well, I could just echo that. I'm very, very honored to be here today too. I've learned a lot, and I think we do see progress, and that you are getting tools that will help you forward. And I do hope also tomorrow that we could maybe agree on aims and goals. They are not 100% clear to me yet, but you will enlighten me, I think, tomorrow on it. Thank you.
I should say something?
Yes.
Well, I hope tomorrow we will discuss this action I was proposing in my lecture. I hope we will.
And that too.
Yes, this is the first conference. It's the first conference like this I've ever been to, and I want to thank you all for making it possible and bringing me here to learn. I think I've learned more from this conference than just about any other one I've been to, in part because it's not my primary field, but I really liked the sense of hope I was getting from people here. You know, the fields I've been involved with, false flag terror, 9/11, assassinations, things like that, are very dark topics, and it's always good to find a way to bring some kind of hope to these topics. This topic is perhaps the darkest of all, and I'm sensing in some ways some of the brightest gleams of hope from people here. So thank you for doing what you do and supporting this fight for truth and justice. And I do hope we will agree on some goals and some methods for trying to get there.
I appreciate being here also, and I won't be with you tomorrow. I'm flying back to Alaska early in the morning. My significant other, Anne, is in the hospital this last couple weeks, so I'm going back, but I'm so glad I came, and I'm so glad I got to meet you all. And I really thank Peter for putting this together and his team. These things are difficult to put together. They take a lot of planning, and I just so much appreciate the effort that went into making this conference happen for all of us. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry, Henning, Witte is not on the chair. We must also go to Henning. Henning also spoke today, so Henning, can you do a reflection on the day?
Oh.
Yeah?
It's not necessary.
Not necessary. What do you want? Okay. Maybe you all want to put questions to each other first. I don't know, or you just want to answer questions from the public. What you want? Yeah. Okay. Well, people, questions.
Short question, maybe less addressed to Begich, about the opinion of the Bioethics Commission. Can you give us a short opinion of yours about the Bioethics Commission of Obama?
I really couldn't. I haven't followed it. I probably couldn't. I haven't followed that close enough to be comfortable answering the question. Maybe there's another person on this panel that would be more suited for that. No? Sorry, I just don't feel qualified to answer.
Yes, next question, please.
Hello, I'm from Sweden. If a person finds themselves to be a targeted individual, what would you recommend doing for that person?
Who wants to answer?
Anyone want to take that?
Maybe.
You guys are the experts. All right, well, we should try, huh? We should keep trying, really. Try to find the ways through this. And I think this kind of a conference, public education, for me has always been the first place. And I think I said in my presentation, the cart before the horse. So victims of this technology are talking about something that most people don't yet understand. I've been talking about this now 20 years. And in a room like this, when I can ask something about HARP and only a couple hands go up that don't know. So you can do that. So that's the first step. Continue to educate people with information. And the idea of being a victim, maybe set that back just a little bit, long enough so people can see the validity of the science first, the fact that technology exists, and then it's easy for people to accept the idea that there are people who've been experimented on. So I think that's the first step, is really educating the public.
If you had a friend who came to you and said, I have just now been targeted, what would you tell them?
I've had that. I've had that come. You know, I've worked with people, close friends that have been in this situation. And beyond what I've just said, because here's the thing, they say, okay, can we monitor it to see if it's happening? Well, if it's actually happening, do you think they're going to switch something off so that when you're monitoring you're never going to see it? Of course.
But you could document it if you monitor it.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can fully monitor the entire spectrum and cover every possibility with certainty. And if you're that observed, if you're being that much focused on, targeted, don't you think they would know that you were being examined? Would they want that disclosure to happen? I don't think so. So I think it's, again, an equation of, if it is, are they going to let it be analyzed closely enough and over the amount of time it would take without detection? Because you're looking for detection of a technology that's affecting you, and they're looking for detection of that technology. So I don't think it's such an easy question.
I'm a scientist, and usually I find that people will believe me if I can document.
Sure. Yeah.
And this is,
it's almost impossible from my perspective to document an individual victim. It's easy to document the technology exists. And that's the first step. Document the technology exists and then ask the questions. When the political parties, political organizations start asking those questions, then they demand the list. Who were the experimental victims? In the United States, Secretary of Energy O'Leary, during the Clinton administration, said there were 500,000 victims of human experiments in the United States, unwitting victims, people who didn't sign up, whether it was for experimenting with syphilis in the Southeast on black Americans or radioactive iodine on Inupiats in Alaska, or MK Ultra victims. How many ever got identified? Frank Olson, and then the names are over with, right? Because we don't know. But yet they acknowledge all of this happened. So I don't know that we'll ever really get the full disclosure.
But don't you think that some of it could be documented? For example, if you had some type of sensor. We
looked at it. I brought in one of the best physicists in the world at biophysics, astrophysics, and geophysics. I said, what'll it take? And she says, $50,000 worth of analytical equipment. I'll contribute my labor, but the reality is over a couple of weeks of doing that kind of experiment, if it's actually happening, they'll switch it off and you'll detect nothing.
Okay, they'll switch it off, but they can't, that's exactly what we want them to do.
For the time that you're running the test. Yeah, so does it really serve the purpose?
Some question? Okay.
If I could comment on that as well, please, with full respect, since I have no idea what some of you are going through. I have not been targeted like that, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I've been targeted in a different way because I've been trying to do everything I can to expose other things. So my targeting has been more visible, I mean in the form of death threats or direct threats or something like that. So I know the feeling, and I also know the power of how you receive it, how you are in the receiving end. They want, in my case, and I think you as well, to scare the living bejesus out of you, to control you. So at least for myself, if I get out of fear mode, I work against them. If I stay focused in what I call love, my life is so much better, because if I'm fearful, I feel awful. If I'm fearful, I spread fear to other people. If I go into the dark, I spread these dark, awful things, and that will also push people away from me. Nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody wants to hear it. I'm sure most of you have seen friends, families just take a step back like, oh God, can someone turn him off? That's my experience when I was in fear mode. After I switched, after I changed the way of doing it, after I stopped seeing myself as a victim, then it was like my power came back and I was able to stand more in balance. So I think victimhood is a danger, even though you are a victim. But inside your head, if you are a victim, you're going down. If you stop being a victim, you take the power back. It's like breathing in or breathing out all the time. If you breathe out all the time as a victim, you end up totally without power. Your own strength is gone. If you breathe in, take deep breaths instead of going into fear mode, and then you can meet it and handle it in a better way, I would say.
Can I say something, please? Yeah, you see I need to say it because the problem is, I don't know how you deal with this. I don't have fear anymore. I had fear the first 3 weeks. And then what is it? What gland? What creates the response?
Rage.
The adrenaline gland doesn't work anymore. I'm not in fear of death. I pray for death. I ask them, could you please get it over with? You see, there is no fear anymore, because there is no only numbness. There is no thinking, no feeling, no will, no energy left. So I appreciate you all very much, but this is the little difference between targeted people and not targeted people. That we often get the advice, well, you are more than a physical body, and you need to go into your highest light or into your soul, and you need to hold on to your power. You see, I have a very long spiritual path behind me, and I was very much in my power. But through the years and years of radiation, there is nothing in me anymore. There is no will, my soul can't come in anymore. My eye can't really enter my body. I'm sorry.
Ask for a response from the panel. Okay.
Yeah, just that you get the feeling.
Like I said, I have no idea what you're going through. So it was with total respect. Had I been in your situation, I know what I was talking about. I have no idea, so I can only feel for you. And that I do for sure. And I do everything I can to expose this mad mindset that is behind so much mayhem in this world, and also this. So I hope that by exposing my part of the whole thing with false flags and political assassinations where they knock out people who are trying to make a difference, that might help you as well. That is my intention, at least.
Thank you. Is one enough? No. Henning, I have a question. I once saw a video on the internet where targeted individuals had like a little tool called the bodyguard, and you can order it in the States, but when I tried to order it here to Germany, the customs, they rejected it and sent it back because they said here in Germany scalar waves are not explored enough. So they sent it back, and it was really, it was my last rescue, really. I thought, okay, maybe this may help. Does it really help, or is it something?
Well, the authorities made a crime that's not allowed. They may add VAT. In Sweden, sometimes they did for me, sometimes not, but they are not allowed to send it return. That was a conspiracy. But the problem is those defenders from Q-Waves, that was the first devices we tested when I got the hint from the Swedish Secret Service in August 2011. Henning, they are using scalar waves, not electromagnetic waves. And then he said, make a study with Professor Konstantin Meil in Germany and Tom Bearden, retired lieutenant colonel in the United States. They know something about scalar waves. So that summer I studied physics. I studied scalar waves. And then I looked on the internet, are there perhaps devices working with scalar waves? Only one firm in the United States, Q-Wave, had a product for targeted individuals, a beamer you can hang around your neck, building a constant field of scalar waves. We tested it very positive in the first days, in the first week, 10 days. And then they found a technology to go around it. So that was the problem. And then we tested the homeopathic gold, and there they did not so easy can go around it. So 80% of those we tested positive and got an improvement in their situation with the homeopathic gold.
Okay, but only for a couple of days.
No, always.
Yeah?
This is the only thing which helped.
So you think this is what Putin has, or other big?
Oh, sorry. The Russians came with a new law 2001 and banned this kind of technology. Right. But that's hypocrisy. In practice, I know from a lot of Russian victims personally, they are targeting them. And when Snowden wanted asylum in Russia, Putin went officially on a press conference and said, he is welcome if he stops to harm the United States. And then I thought, shit, he has also material on mind control, that NSA is doing mind control. And the Russians don't want that this is detected because that is also still their weapon. So Putin is in charge of that technology. He does not need a shelter yet.
But he needs to shelter himself from the United States then, right? Or
I think they have fields against it.
How do they shield themselves?
I think they can shield themselves. They don't tell us how to do, but the big nations have their possibilities. Never forget, the Russians were first and leading in this technology because they never had a conspiracy against Nikola Tesla. They really vacuum cleaned every research from Nikola Tesla, and therefore they were in an advance. And then they had the luck that they got the German Nazi radar scientists. And a lot of mind control is done with phased array radar. And therefore, the Soviet Union was in the leading until the Chernobyl happened, which is connected with the scalar wave war. And therefore, the Russians still have a lot of technology to shield themselves. So Putin is not a victim of mind control. He is in kind of charge.
Yes. Okay. Right. There's one more question here.
Thank you. My name is Johansson for we have a list of some people because we tend to do something more than ourselves. I think there are many things we can do in parallel because our situation is not going to improve just by getting information. I think we have to join forces among us to constitute, let's call it an international association of victims, or you name it, or as you want. But the question is to have a body to get respect and visibility from the society. To put money, to support this association, our own money, but also to ask money for the supporters, for donations, or whoever wants to collaborate with us. What's coming without resources, without money? First, we have to go to the academy, to the polytechnics. We need to get help from the telecommunication engineers. We need to physically to show how it is happening. No other uses traditional electromagnetic technology or it is scalar technology. As far as you know, scalar technology nowadays is also measured. You can measure that. The second thing we need is to fight against the radiation. If it is electromagnetic radiation, you can shield with special materials, conductive electronics. It is a scalar wave. There are metamaterials. I sent an article about Wikipedia to judge it. There are means, physical means, to shield a scalar wave. And the end, one idea is to constitute that body, that association, to empower some people to take care in the case one of us get sick in a hospital, to provide the best care. And in the case we pass away, we die, but in the case of crime, to take that course, to investigate, to make the autopsy, to make autopsy just to discover what technologies are being employed in us, what implants are being used, to get knowledge that can help the rest of us. We need to find. We don't need just to talk about us. We need to find. This is our work. We are not very few. But I think in the future we can gain momentum and be a big force. This is what my
suggest to start an international organization. What do you think?
I was talking to the professors of the Czech Technical University, asking them about those matters. They told me they are engaged in some research together with Germans, not exactly which research. And in my opinion, all those people who are involved in this research are bound by national security information. They do this for penalties imprisonment for the What people we can ask for, ask questions are people who are opposing or who are declaring that cell phone transmissions cause harm to human health. I found even in the Czech Republic a scientist who said there is a possibility that it acts on the nervous system. So those people, I believe, who are amateurs, who are laymen, who are not really bound by national security information law, those people we can ask for help to support us in the courts, basically. We should try.
Thank you, Mojmír. Kevin, would you reflect on the idea that this gentleman is suggesting to start an international organization? You have now the Poland, West Germany, the Netherlands, to have an international organization to find and expose these crimes.
I'm not really an expert on starting organizations. I do think, however, that with regard to an earlier question about what would I say to a friend who suddenly approached me and said they've been targeted, right? I guess what I would contribute to the great things that other people said, which relates to this question too, is I would say fight back. You've got something to motivate you. You've got something to live for now, I mean, look around you. How many people in this Western world really have anything to live for beyond, their jobs and their consuming and their eating dinner and turning on the TV? I can relate to this. I woke up to 9/11 in late 2003, and it was very painful, and it didn't make my career path easy. In fact, I got thrown out of the university in 2006. And I could be saying, wow, you know, I got so mistreated and miserable. And, you know, there's a level where I can relate to that feeling. But I also have something worth doing, you know. You know, God gave me something worth doing. And all of the pain that comes with this, and for me at least, in my path, I know you guys are sometimes experiencing a lot worse things than I ever have, but that pain is giving you a reason to fight back. In my case, I hope I live long enough to see the perpetrators of 9/11 and these other atrocities exposed fully and punished. So that gives me something to stay alive for day after day after day, no matter what life throws at me. And I would urge my friends who had that experience to do that. So if founding an organization is something that you have a talent for, that you can find resources for, yes, by all means jump into it. And what each person has a different thing to contribute to this sort of project.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yes, the problem today is that we don't have any laws of man and machine interactions. And the researchers, they're using that against us because they allow to connect a person to a computer. And all of us targeted in video, we are connected to computers, artificial intelligence. It's computer and neuroscience. It's human brain college. It's Obama Brain Initiative. It's a global arms race, if you can call it that. It's a global race of the knowledge of the brain. The military have had this technology for a long time. It goes back to the 40s. We have all that documentation. We have José Delgado. We have all that. It has gone on for a long time. The military has left this research field. Now it's the brain project's work. They have spent more money in the brain project than in the space projects. When we were traveling to the moon, in the brain projects there are more money spent. We have to see where the money is, and it's in the brain projects. It's human brain projects in Europe and Obama Brain Initiative in the United States. And we are all victims of this research. It's the last research field. We have the whole human body are investigated. We have maps of the whole human body. But it's only the mind that's left.
Can you ask the question?
Yes, but it's just that I want to say to all people here, because everybody talks about different things. And we got to follow the money to get the perpetrators. And that's the brain project.
Well, we heard Ole Johansson already talk about human brain project. Maybe we can summarize it a little bit. There was going a lot of money to this project.
I know too little to really summarize anything, you know, but the things that we have heard, I've never seen in writing. So I need to see the proofs in that case, and I think it's not fair to start with any victims. I think your idea was much better, that we start with normal healthy volunteers, like judges, and we subject them to the alterations that you claim are possible, and you said they're cheap and easy to do. Well, let's do it, because no one believes you at the moment, and that's an issue to be addressed. The Human Brain Project is about something completely different, you know, and I've never heard anyone talk about controlling any individual, and especially not maybe at our level. We are too insignificant from that point of view. So I would rather go for putting the horse in front of the cart to do some very simple, cheap and rapid experimentation. And I understand it would only take a matter of weeks to actually construct this kind of mind control device and to show it. And parallel to that, maybe to open up a discussion which I think is extremely important, namely the ethics and the legal aspects, because around the corner we have a huge number of projects aiming to understand the brain, yes indeed, use that information to affect the brain function, to, for instance, then steer a prosthesis much more accurately. When you have lost your arm, they want to interconnect the new prosthesis with your brain to more or less mimic the ordinary biological arm. And that is, of course, something that people that have lost their arms love to hear. They want that to happen and to be the truth. And but as you pointed out so very accurately, any method that could be turned into, should we say, evil, it will be turned into evil, but not by these scientists. There will be other people doing that. And therefore, to have a public debate where to draw the line. And I'm backing it. There has been some, Mikael here has told me about some discussions like that in Sweden, but I think much more is needed, and especially at the European Union level and the United Nations level, so that mankind doesn't run into a real problem. You know, scientists very often are, should we say, naive. They want to develop their methods and their ideas and their visions, but they don't really see the end point all the time, and therefore they need lawyers, politicians, laymen, experts, etc. And I think that's very important, and maybe this association the gentleman talked about could be such a grain in the sand to force people to start talking and thinking a lot more. But I'm coming back. I'm sorry that I'm sort of the boring Swede here, but you need hardcore evidence. Otherwise, no one will ever believe you. And as far as I understand, it should be simple. And we don't need to subject the victims to anything, because that would be highly unethical. We just need some judges or physicians or scientists or anything. I would volunteer. You can test on me if you want to with such a device.
Thank you, Olle.
Yeah. I have recorded a scalar field in my home. I'm a target in video, and I have taken this to a professor for Strömungsmechanik in Bielefeld, Fachhochschule. He saw it and he said, yes, that's it. Where did you have it from? My English is not so good, because therefore I don't talk so good English, but also I had a boyfriend who is a scientist in military research at the KIT Karlsruhe. He's a professor for informatics, and I know that he is the one who has developed monarch kitten programming, because I'm taught it with that. He always speaks in his own speech to me. Okay. He, my ex-boyfriend, I had in my studying in the 80s, and he has developed it in 1994. He wrote his dissertation at the Brown University in Providence. There is also psychiatry in Alaska, together to the Brown University in Providence. And he developed query languages, Verhörsprache, also.
Okay, I'm going to tell
yes.
I know that Elke, she said she discovered that she
and
could.
I have also recorded it.
Yes,
I've also speech recorded.
That she could record force to skull. I know. Okay, so. So she did this, for example, with a radio to a brain, which can of course be done. Yeah, and then a radio is a receiver. So when you set the frequency, it's you put the antenna next to your head. Then it's very probable that it will get decoded, and it may be possible that it will result in voice.
Recorded speech.
So this is, for example, a method. It's a very simple method that a person has developed to try to. Found in the voice of skill. Would such a method be accepted?
Maybe we can provide the speakers later.
Yeah, okay. Would such a method be accepted in the court of law or by the police?
It never had been like, yes. I have the proof. I have recorded it at my home. And I have to shown it to Professor. Yes, with my digital camera. And I show it to the Professor. Yes, so,
yeah, no, I was just wondering, has anyone ever detected where these frequencies might be coming from and who's responsible for it? And a second question is, if somebody believed they were being targeted, where would you start to investigate where these are coming from? It's kind of a two-question thing. Has anyone ever actually gone to somebody and said, okay, this organization, we proved they're responsible for it with this equipment? Has that ever actually occurred, or has... That's my question.
Does anyone want to reflect on this? Yeah.
You know, there were, I think every speaker has spoken to victims on some level. I mean, MK Ultra included lots of victims. The U.S. government has acknowledged lots of victims of all kinds of experiments, including mind control experiments. The Navy continues to do those types of experiments and has guidelines to direct them on how to do it. You know, can you point to any specific agency? Yeah, I can point to the U.S. Navy that has a protocol for approval of this kind of work. You can point to the CIA, who the President's Commission disclosed that there were victims of mind control experiments, mostly, incidentally, prisoners who had no rights, orphans, mentally disturbed and disabled, and people that tended to be loners and alone with no family ties. Those were all acknowledged within the Church Committee hearings and other hearings. So yes, clearly there have been the finger pointed at specific organizations and even specific individuals, but none of them have ever gone to jail, which is where they belong.
My point is, there anybody or any organization that would physically prove that and detect it and say, okay, you've been responsible for these technologies on this group of people, we have...
Yeah, the only other one I'm aware of was Frank Olson in the United States, and it was Rumsfeld and Cheney when they worked in the Ford administration, that agreed to settle with that family so they wouldn't testify in front of the congressional hearings and force the disclosures. So they were settled with. And there was another group in Canada, and I'm forgetting the institute where they were, that's it, the McGill Institute. And those were settled with economically because the Canadians insisted on it, but not because anyone in the United States. So there have been, but they're proportionate to probably the size. There are already admitted 500,000 victims of various kinds of experiments, of which only a handful of victims have ever been fully disclosed. Yet they know it happened. So is there justice in that? No, absolutely not. Do the fingers point at these organizations that we've all described in all of our presentations? Absolutely yes. There's not enough accountability, clearly, and victims have not been fairly treated and compensated for what's happened to them.
Thank you, Nick. Well, there's a lady at the back. She also wants to ask a question.
My name is Anastasia Paul Mushi. I'm from England. I'm a victim and a mother of a child who is also a victim. Unfortunately, as with many TIs here, my whole family have also been victimized. I'm heavily targeted. I was practicing in London as an immigration advocate. I'm a law graduate with LLB and LLM. However, the group that is harassing and stalking us is targeting children. Anyone that I am in contact with, I have recorded them shouting, anyone you speak to, we will target. By they target children with the motive of doing the most horrific things to them. They put them to sleep using the implants and rape them. They torture the mothers. This is displayed in their websites and they laugh. Neighboring properties are being used.
What's the question? What's the question?
My question, I am sorry. I have witnessed so many horrific things, and as a mother, it's too much. My question is to, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. The gentleman at the end, yes. Yes. You mentioned in your speech that we need to educate people that the technology is real. How do I educate doctors and police that this is I'm being tortured right now, as you can tell. I've been tortured throughout this because they say I'm revealing what they don't want to be revealed.
It is true that.
What I want to talk is related
yeah?
to this, please. It's just
what I want to say is that indeed, so it's not only attacking just a grown-up, an adult, but when you are a target, they also attack your children, your family, to often horrible, it's psychopathic, absurd, insane. There are no words to describe this. So, but at this moment, I don't know what the question to ask.
It's not a question. It's more about a suggestion. Sorry for my English; it's not perfect. But I think we should first educate yourself, the big brains. I mean, the scientific group, because when I'm going to the hospital, I need help because I've passed out already 2 times in a hospital just last week, for example, and I need help. I don't need, no, I'm listening voices. I don't need that the scientific doctors, they say me, you're crazy. I need help. So my suggestion is, first, you must educate scientific group, and then we will get some kind of help. Because if police, if doctors, if lawyers are not educated in that field, nobody can help us. And nobody gonna listen to us.
Thank you. Ole, maybe, of course, you're not police, but...
Okay, doctors tell me I'm schizophrenic.
It's quackery. Modern psychiatry is quackery and nothing else.
Doctors say I'm not schizophrenic, but I have the same symptoms.
I've heard that before.
But why do you listen to them? You should listen to yourself.
I think schizophrenic is a development of mind control. I don't know. I don't think that it really exists.
Okay.
I would like to say it's for me it's the first time to be in personal contact with victims like you. It breaks my heart. I'm very grateful to experience it close up because now I will take it to a totally different level in my life. But when it comes to murders, false flags, and so on, the official ones, the ones that you're supposed to be able to trust, the police, the government, and so on, in my opinion, that is the absolute last place you should go, because from them you will never ever get any help. The top, to say it politely, are super, super, super criminals. So when it comes to my world, I always try to avoid the legal way, the normal way, and try to find another way in through the system, infiltrate it, get another way, not the official one, because that will just be like you will be stonewalled. It's just like hitting your head up against a wall. So for me, it's a total waste of energy just to try and go to the official one. So I would suggest if you can somehow join up, find out a clever way to bypass the official version, get around the door, find a back door, inside sources, that type of thing. And please, if I can help in any way, please let me know. This is not my field at all, but in any way I can, please count on me.
I wanted to stop this panel reflection. I mean, tomorrow will be another day. 4 of the speakers will return tomorrow. Begich will go home tomorrow morning. I think, well, I learned a lot. I think we had a wonderful day. You were all wonderful, and the speakers were wonderful. And I want to give you once again a big hand for our speakers. I'm grateful that they have come. You're all wonderful, Olle, Mojmír. Kevin, Nick. Yeah, this is a little bit. No, sorry, no. We now we let the speakers go for today. Okay, tomorrow is another day. Yeah. No, sorry, Marco. It's over now. We just talk. Yeah, we just walk around and talk. Ole's last words? No. Okay. Thank you, speakers, once again. Thank you, people, once again. You can stay here. You don't have to go. The speakers will go.
I hope our speakers have some ideas, and that those ideas can inspire us, and then we open to discussion on the solutions now only. Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say that I speak about love. At the same time, what's going on, absolutely super criminal, awful atrocities, not acceptable. So, total exposure of what's going on, in my opinion. I would like to... I have this sound in my head now. No, but I would like to mention that I'm involved in a project called FullCircleProject.net. FullCircleProject.net is Max Egan, Zen Gardner, myself and many other people that are trying to, or we are creating what we would like to see as a grassroots movement with no leaders, with no political agenda, but bringing people together globally to take the power back and to act in all the different areas needed, because it's not only your type of problems, which is awful, we're being under attack from so many different areas at the same time. Air, food, GMOs, chemtrails, vaccines, wars, false flags, there's so many different areas, but the good news in my opinion is that we're looking at the same power structure behind it, so wherever we focus at, we'll still get to the same place. It's like all roads leads to Rome. So if you want, please check out the website FullCircleProject.net, and hopefully we can help each other.
Well, I think for solutions, there are individual solutions, and of course everyone has their own to some extent, but generally I would think that having a peaceful heart and doing whatever you can to make your heart more peaceful, whether it's meditation, prayer, whatever works for you, being in nature more, changing your environment, that's always good. And then fighting back as effectively as possible and as intensively as possible while keeping a peaceful heart would be, for me, kind of the general description of any individual solution that sort of applies to almost everybody. But there's also the solution to the larger problem, and I don't know if we can make small piecemeal kinds of reforms in the current system as it stands, our current political, spiritual system. I think we might need to have a fundamental change in that kind of system. And so contributing to the movement for that kind of change is what we all need to do. And I think that the change perhaps needs to focus on the apex of power in the current system. As far as I can tell, the international banking houses of the West and the international banking families seem to be pretty much at the top of the power pyramid, and the system of usury that they are using to enslave the planet and to pay for all of these technologies with which they enslave the planet, that system needs to change. So working for that kind of change should be possible. Ordinary people who are it's hard to get them to listen to these issues, but they may listen when you tell them, it's the banksters, stupid. That's what the Occupy movement did, and it got a certain amount of resonance going. And I think more and more of us recognize that the real issue here is this New World Order project, which is part of, it's an epiphenomenon of the usury money system. And since people feel their pocketbooks first, just ordinary dumbed down people, even they are very much focused on their pocketbook issues, pointing out the rapacious rule of the banksters is at the root of all these different problems, maybe one way to try to change things politically. And the political change, a complete change of this system politically, would conceivably make it possible to address these issues. These issues are going to be very hard to address under the current system with this current crew of psychopathic monsters in charge. We're going to have to overthrow them and institute a new system to really change this whole thing. So that's my best effort at providing a general description of what could be a solution.
I think that firstly, we have to organize a large movement of protestation. And I think we started already to do it here. There are here a lot of national groups, and for some countries this group are really important. We have exchanged our emails. I think that really the good current passed. So it depends on and only on our determination to continue and really to construct an European or international movement. But I think that we have also another way, perhaps more important and more efficient. If you have seen the interview of Dr. Kilde, if you can read her book, his recipe was very simple. Our capacity to forgive, our capacity to pray, to meditate, to be benevolent, really can disturb all those devices. We in Poland, we have a confirmation about this because some of our members consult the healers, the people who probably knows about the soul, our souls, our psychology more than we know. And these people confirm, almost all of them confirm the opinions of Dr. Kilde. For example, they say if you pray, if you meditate, they can't reach you. They can't reach your mind. And I also experienced this, and I can tell you it is very, very efficient. So perhaps everybody lonely in his house, but it is important to be positive. It is important to never blame our perpetrators. Each time, if you want to blame them, just you can banish them. And it is efficient, really. It works like this. And I'm really profoundly convinced that Dr. Kilde found the right day. And if you are talking about Rauni Kilde, I would like to transmit you the idea of my colleague Janusz Zagórski. who is the owner of NTV. And when we had in March this year a seminar in Wrocław, our seminar also was in memory of Rauni Kilde. And Janusz had an idea to proclaim an International Day of Struggle against Covert Harassment. And he proposed to choose a date of this International Day, the date of death of Rauni Kilde. Do you agree? And so we can state that the International Day of Struggle against Covert Harassment has been proclaimed by acclamation in Berlin today? Yes? Yes. Okay. And it will be the 8th February each day. Thank you very much.
I would like to say that yesterday I was circulating here a letter to European Commission for signatures, and it got lost. Perhaps you could see if someplace in your stuff it's not there because it's not. I don't find it anymore. I don't have it anymore. Then I was suggesting here an action which could lead at least to the ban of microwave weapons capable to influence the functioning of human nervous system. There are still instructions and letter you could use. If you decide to participate in it, it would be very good if you don't have a national organization to start it. Like for an individual, it doesn't make sense to try it because they will ignore you. If you present the letter as an organization, they will have much more reasons to pay attention to it. It's not difficult to start an organization. Usually, in the Czech Republic, one man or woman can start an organization. In some other countries, it may be perhaps 3 people or 5 people. It's not that difficult to put 3 people together. You can find on the internet some examples how you can make statutes. You have to send it to the authorities, and then you have the organization, and you can write in the name of this organization. So I would really appreciate if people would join this action, because I believe there is a chance at least to obtain the ban of microwave weapons acting on a human nervous system.
There are 4 points we should focus our energy and money on. The first is to unite. There we have done a lot. Our UCASH, European Coalition Against Covert Harassment, we are about 700 members from all over the world, mainly Europe. So it is good to start in local communities, groups helping each other, uniting, and then those making an association in Poland and so on, and then those members are joining UCASH and ISAACT and so on. So there we have been quite successful. The other point is to spread the information. Even on that point we have been quite successful thanks to the internet. We have spread a lot of information there, and a lot of people looking to the interviews from TIs and from the conferences and so on. Much more than we could imagine. My films on YouTube, they put down the figures. So it is, I don't know how much they put it down, but I know they do it because I have self-clicked on some of my films, and then the counter didn't work. So they are cheating there. Doesn't matter. For me, it only matters that a lot of brains have reached that information and have got access to this. So there we are also quite good. But then the two other points, we should really be better. And the third point is we must do research in the technology they use and our body uses. Because we must know that our body is a biological computer for the soul. And this computer is working with law of physics, mainly, and not so much chemistry. So therefore homeopathy is working so well, because homeopathy is working with physics, with waves, interference patterns of waves, frequency patterns, because we are frequency beings, mainly. So, and therefore I emphasize so much on the scalar waves, because our biological computer, our body is working with magnetic scalar waves and not electromagnetic waves. And as long as we don't grasp that, and all the guys who talked on this conference about electromagnetic harassment and so on, they are leading us in the false direction. If you shield against electromagnetic waves with tinfoil hats and so on, you will never succeed in the Faraday cages. You must forget about that. The human body has no antennas for electromagnetic waves, only scalar waves. So there you must be much better to do your math at home, better said, do your physics at home, study Tom Bearden's research, study Professor Miles' research, Konstantin Miles from Germany. He is the new Tesla of today, and he is giving the theory to what Nikola Tesla had researched more than 100 years ago. And Nikola Tesla detected the scalar wave, the electric scalar wave, and Konstantin Miles detected the magnetic scalar wave 20 years ago. In some 30 years, he will get a Nobel Prize for that. And the fourth point you must be better and do your research on. That is, who has the power on planet Earth? And there it is a must for every TI to read the research of David Icke. He was a Green Party politician in the 90s, got a vogue, and he has published in the beginning so much about mind control. My first knowledge about mind control was thanks to David Icke. And the other very important source to make research who is in charge of planet Earth is Simon Parkes, also from Great Britain, a Labour politician, very brave man, and he has helped, in spite of that, a lot of TIs because he has the psychic power and ability to remove implants, both physical implants and etherical implants. There it is very important, if we display who is in charge here on planet Earth, then they lose their power, and then the source for mind control will disappear.
Today in the morning I was talking about some historical events regarding scanning. It was a radio frequency scan, as you know. It was usual and it was done by ISECT organization. And now there is in fact no one to do this scan. I also showed some scanners, and one of the scanners is also the same scanner that was for this scanning. It was the device used for the scanning of person regarding those radio frequency foreign bodies in your physical body. Because we can't say exactly chips, but because this scan is not able to recognize whether it is chip or something else. And so, but there are some radio frequency signals from your body. Probably it's history, yes, as you could hear recently, because today they have some other possibilities how these perpetrators can find you. Yes, it's not necessary to keep a radio frequency chip or implant, I don't know, in your body. They can recognize you. Even Mr. Henning was talking about that even on video this year, that they have a new possibility to find person, targeted individual, according to your blood circuit plus DNA and so on. So I'm not expert in this field, so probably Mr. Henning could say something more about that. But historically, a lot of you keep those radio frequency foreign bodies in your physical body. That means, in my opinion, because I should speak about solution. I realize it's not solution, but it's necessary to have a lot of proofs of evidence. It's very important. We can write letters, we can do a lot of things, but we need more and more proofs of evidence to show the world, to show mainstream media. If somebody is able to draw attention of mainstream media, it would be win. It would be victory. But it's very important, and I think that is the way. How can we find solution if we have enough proof of evidence? And it's necessary to find experts able to do those scanning, radio frequency scanning, with this device, because we need some more experts in this field, and to be able, at least in Europe, to do something like that. Because, for example, from Poland, there is a huge need, also from Lithuania, I heard today, and other countries. There is a huge need to find somebody to continue this scanning, which was excellently it was done by ISECT organization. I was talking about that in the morning, as you remember. So, if there is somebody, or you know some people, and there is somebody who is able to organize such scanning sessions, like it was very well level done by ISECT, it would be super for our future solution, I must say, from my point of view. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for this kind of opening, but let's push it a bit further. So, in my opinion, the only way to resolve this problem is, well, the first step would be to expose it, but to expose the truth about those crimes. Like if whoever was here yesterday when Begich was talking, he mentioned that the technology cannot be really denied anymore. The patents exist, everything is in public domain. This technology is actually as well covered by mainstream media, but from the other side. It's presented as something what helps us, that we can control our arm by mind. So there are, for instance, those earphones that you can touch on your cheek and swim underneath the water while hearing music. You don't hear it through your ear, but you put it here. So the technology to bypass the ear and insert voices or thoughts to human mind exists. It cannot be denied. But still, all the governments around the world, all of them deny it. Mainstream media are afraid to touch it, to mention that this kind of torture exists. So it's like invisible torture, silent. TIs are very often isolated. I think many TIs as well do not take enough effort into researching this better and educating themselves, because it is also important the way how you get it across to other people. If you go to a doctor or to a policeman or to your friends, to family, and only complain how much you torture, but you are not able to explain it in a rational way, sooner or later they will think there's something wrong with you, and this will actually end up being very destructive also for you and will isolate you. So I think the first step is to expose the truth about it, but in a credible way, and to reach attention of the journalists. But I'm not so sure whether it's about the mainstream media, really, because the mainstream media lie, and general public does not really have that much trust in mainstream media anymore anyway. The younger generation rather spends more time on the internet, so we need to be more creative. And for instance, Henning, you mentioned that UKAC has 700 members, but are those members active? Are they creative? Are they doing anything to expose it, and what are the results? The same, Mieczysław, you mentioned the ISAC scanning, but have there been any results? So let's start to think how we can move forward, but in a credible way, because the problem is as well that not only that people are not informed about it, not only that it is so complex and difficult to explain to anyone, but also there is so much disinformation that surrounds us, and this makes it even more difficult. That's another barrier for general public to believe it. So what can be done about that to get it to the public, to expose it, to...
Can I say something?
I can just repeat, in my world, fullcircleproject.net.
Okay, so I will tell you the truth about StopZ. We talk about StopZ as about a legal association. And in reality, we tried to unregister our association, but the tribunal, who normally work about 1 month about this kind of petition, in our case took 3 months. And lately, just 2 days before the conference, the tribunal gave his statement. Our full name is StopZ, Stop Organized Electronic Tortures, and precisely 2 words were not good for the tribunal: organized and tortures. And what was their explication? Their explication was that we have to change our name if we want to be unregistered. Because if we rest these 2 words, organized tortures, it could signify to the society that there are some kind of malveillance of the state. And it could done the very bad impression that the society is not in security, is not in safety. So for a moment, We are not yet unregistered, but it's objectively, it's a very bad judgment for us. But in the same time, this judgment gives us a fantastic opportunity to spread the information. We can go to the journalists, we can write that this kind of censor has been, that we have been affected with this kind of censorship. Thanks, Melanie. And you know, I can advise to all the national groups to use each opportunity that you meet to inform the public, step by step. And finally, the people could understand. Because you know, at StopZ, we have, it depends, but normally we have 3 victims who contact us daily. It's enormous. It's enormous. So don't stop your action. Don't disheart you. Use each opportunity. And apart love, benevolence, prayer and meditation, I think the most important thing in our case is a friendship. They wanted to isolate us, and the result is that they offered us a lot of friends. The fantastic people. We couldn't ever met them, all of them. So in this place I can say thanks to Polish special services, thanks to Polish police, thanks to you I have about 50 new friends, the fantastic people. Because you know, they don't choose anybody. They choose the people who are positive. I have told with about 100 victims, and what is common to us, that it is really a very nice persons. So a friendship, a love, a prayer, a meditation, and it will be good.
Yes, I forgot to emphasize the only shielding against covert harassment, which 80% of those who tested this during the last 2.5 years reacted positive on, was the taking of homeopathic gold. Aurum metallicum in Latin. Aurum is a Latin word for gold, and metallicum is a Latin word for metal. There are other aurum products in homeopathy, but you must take the aurum metallicum, the frequency pattern of real gold. We don't know exactly how it is working in physics, but we know it is working in shielding. Simon Parkes confirmed that. And so I recommend to every TI which is contacting me, take the homeopathic gold, take 3 different potencies, for example D30, D200 and C100, test different potencies so that you get the optimal results. Take it every morning, 6 those small pills from every bottle, and every evening Sometimes you need more in the beginning and then later on less. And take it every day, because this shield is only about 24 hours or something like that. And therefore you need to renew it. And don't take the homeopathic gold to the airplane, because when you fly high in the high altitudes, the cosmic radiation is destroying the homeopathic remedies, not only the gold, but in principle. So if you make an intercontinental or international flight, for instance, now to Berlin, don't take it from the UK, buy a new one here in Berlin, because otherwise it gets destroyed. And because we have been so successful with the homeopathic gold, the perpetrators now have planted programs beaming to you, it's not interesting, the homeopathic gold, don't take it, or it has side effects, or it's poisonous, and that is bullshit. The homeopathic remedies never have side effects because they don't work with chemistry, with molecules. They only work with waves, with interference, and our body is so intelligent that it don't take the wrong ones. So therefore you principally don't have side effects with homeopathic remedies. I take it since early 2013, in spite of the fact that I'm not a TI, but I know that you never can be sure that you are attacked. More than 99% of the people are not TIs, but are attacked, and the point is that you don't know it. Otherwise, it's not so clever to do it. So I don't notice any negative things, voice to skull and things like that, but I can't exclude that I'm a victim of mind control, and therefore I take my homeopathic gold every day, and I have never found out side effects and so on. So I warmly recommend to everybody who hasn't started to do it now.
Yeah, maybe I can respond a little bit to what Henning says. I do not have any experience with homeopathic gold, and I know from what I've read about it that it can take away depression and these kind of things. So it must be good. It must have good effects. So, but I think in general the power is more here, and many of these effects. The attacks that are aimed at us have the intention to make us do things, to make us think things, to make us act in a certain way. And so that's always what I always say to victims. So don't try to react immediately. Have a delay between it, because if you, for example, if you get an email, you start answering it immediately, then you get a phone call, you start answering it immediately, then you get a beam, you step out and you go outside, then you must go to the toilet and you go immediately to the toilet. I mean, these are all attacks, and if you keep respond to that immediately, then you get into this loop. Yeah. So what I suggest is that you do not, if somebody calls you, fine, pick up the telephone, not maybe after a minute. Call the person back after 5 minutes or after 15 minutes, no problem. Somebody sends you an email, don't respond to it immediately. Maybe throw a dice, if it's respond after 3 hours. Yeah, so try to respond random. That's the thing that secret services hate most, is people who act random. Yeah? They want you to act predictable. So my suggestion is that you act random. Make them work hard. Yeah? Let them think. Fuck all their computer programs. Because if you act random, their computer programs go wild. They go crazy. They need manual interaction. Yeah? And they don't like manual interaction. They like to sit back behind their screen and say, look, yeah, the program is doing everything. So act random, and more important even, do what you want to do in your life, in your day. You make a plan for a day when you get up and try to do that, and don't let anything take it away from you. So not the person who calls you. Keep your focus on the things you want to do. Well, that's my suggestion.
Okay, I'm also not very experienced with this homeopathic gold. I tried it just for a few days and I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel better, or also didn't feel better after this. I've heard from some people it helped them a little bit. From other people I heard that it didn't help. I think we should not think that if we take something and eat something, or we take a qubit defender and hang it over our neck, or if we take some gold or anything, our harassment will be gone. This is not our solution. Maybe it could better our feelings a little bit, or it could lower the attacks a little bit. Could be, I don't know. I think our interest should go in this direction to stop the harassment, or stop it if we can show our attackers. Yeah, if we find our attackers, this is the one way. Or if we find a good shielding, this is the other way. I think our interest should go in this direction to improve our knowledge about shielding. Maybe I'm sure it would be good to have working groups, small groups of people who work on specific topics, like how to find a shielding, how to shield against specific frequencies. This should be our interest, yeah, and we should focus on this.
There's also John Hall.
What's your view on how what you can do as a person? Is gold a good method, the homeopathic gold?
Well, I tell you, I try to take a real common sense approach to this and a logical approach. There's a lot of things being marketed now. I see online that wear this button, wear this pendant, and it's going to make it go away. I kind of live by the rule that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I don't think the solutions are going to be as easy as wearing a pendant, or like when Stanager says rub a salve on you and all your nanotechnology implants are going to come to the surface and come out of the skin. Something tells me it's not going to be that easy, especially when we've tried just about every shielding method that can affordably be done, including military-grade jammers, which do work, but unfortunately you can't walk around in a military-grade jamming field or ride around in a Humvee that has one attached to it everywhere you go, and certainly can't wear a jamming suit. And they do make Faraday suits that will block a lot of this, but again, you're back to living your life in a way that's going to get you diagnosed as schizophrenic by a psychiatrist, which in my mind is a secondary victimization, because once you get that diagnosis, a lot of times that's when the downward spiral really begins, especially with your family members. So what we've really been focused on more is changing the EEG, doing some spectrum blocking, but changing the EEG where it's a little bit harder, to actually track you. And that's being done under the premise that most of this is being done neurologically in the brain, whether you're implanted or not. And some people are implanted and some people aren't. And they're both getting victimized equally. So if you go under the premise that, let's say it has converted to mostly nanotechnology, which is impossible to find until it festers out of your body, or if it's old technology, which would be Verichip type technology, either way, if you jam the signals or figure out a way to block or normalize the EEG, you do seem to stop the symptoms, and we've borne that out in research. As far as the broad spectrum, I think it's going to be education and logical activism, and that's starting at the bottom rungs, and that's community, city councils, county things, talk to legislators that are state-based legislators, and slowly work your way up the ladder, because what we found is, at least in the United States, is sending letters to your federal legislators, your representatives, your Congress members, that doesn't work. They basically, like, everybody thought, oh, when Obama got elected, especially with Feinstein, Pelosi, and Boxer, 3 legislators in California, the most liberal state in our nation, you think would understand this better than the United States, is the worst state to be affected in. Matter of fact, I'm to the point now, victims from California contact me and they say, what do I do? And I say, move. We're going to have to give them that state. It's not going to get any better. It's a cult related in that state, for one. For two, the powers that be, except for Richmond, California, which we had some success with, won't help the victims. Feinstein, Boxer, and Pelosi have sent letters back to most victims recommending psychiatric help, not trying to address the problem. It's gotten violent in California. Some of the victims are physically being assaulted now, not just electronically. So those people, I say, you know what, let them have that state, move. Not that you can move away from it, you can't, but you can certainly move to a state where people take you seriously and will actually protect you from being physically assaulted. So we have to kind of do the ground roots work, which is what we're doing now, and really every one of you here has to go back out and do your part in the activism. There's not going to be one person, there's not going to be one entity, there's not going to be one pill you can take to make it go away or one form of shielding that's going to make it disappear. It's going to have to be political change. Well, I would like to address that real quickly. I have been in communication with Konstantin Miel. The other scientist, I don't know. Several years ago, I contacted Konstantin when we were actually working on shielding techniques and saw that we were shielding very little of it with affordable known shielding techniques. His exact words were, if you're trying to shield it and you're using normal shielding and you can't, it's probably scalar until proven otherwise. The problem at that time, now that was a couple of years ago, he didn't know a way to shield scalar waves either. And on top of that, currently the US military has calls for abstracts. In the scientific world, when you need research, especially government, when the government needs research, they put out a call for abstracts to the civilian world. And right now, the military itself is looking for ways to shield from that. So, I mean, you're talking about really kind of inventing the wheel there as far as true military-grade shielding from scalar waves. But, like I said, that's been a couple of years ago. Maybe it has been done by now.
Yeah, well, I find it nice suggestions, and it can come to that. But don't look at us. Don't look to other people when you have questions and want to fix things. Yeah? So go out. I mean, this conference is not over yet for you. Yeah, I hope it's not over for the other people. Yeah, when you walk out and go home tonight, then this conference is not over yet. We've been here with so many people together, so many good speakers. You got so much information. Please stay all connected, and you have this idea, so you know the people here. You can contact, maybe other people here, and do that. Yeah? Don't wait for me, please. Yeah. Start initiatives yourself and investigate the possibility yourself.
He's a nice guy. He'll appreciate the email. He really will. Yeah. And he has heard of targeted individuals. He knows of our plight. Trust me. I've communicated with him many times. He may have some new ideas.
I mean, we're not crazy. You can talk to anyone, everybody. Refer to the conference. Refer to John Hall, to Henning Witte, Kevin Barrett, Ewa. Harald. I mean, we're just people. We're not. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go out. Never.
I have noticed, because the TIs have a very special situation, they have a need to talk about their situation. So we should always at those conferences not only allow questions, but allow them to talk from their heart. So who wants to talk?
The need of coordination of all associations directly constituted and formed from victims. The organization of a similar conference periodical with conjunction of manifestation against or front of important sieges, political or administrative or juridical or military. And many frequently, 3 even 2 years in free country, and coordination directly from victims. Because però, but with regular, the victims must name and surname, and of anonymous. No es possible. It's impossible organize good struggle with anonymous participation. Thanks. No, demand for the association.
I've tried to persuade probably 10, 15 people of what's happening to me, and I've only succeeded once, and these are people I've known all my life. And the reason is I don't have the knowledge necessary. When they ask me a difficult question, I can't answer it, and then they just lose interest. What we need is a book targeting for dummies, because there's so much material that we have. You know, I'm a lawyer and I've done my best. I'm not too unscientific. I've done my best to understand it, but we need targeting for dummies, just the basics, because and we should all the questions. You know, why are nobody's being targeted? Well, experimentation. Experimentation for what? And there's question after question after question. We've got to get together and write targeting for dummies.
Good suggestion, thank you. What I would like to say is, of course it's important for people to work together, and I myself, I've been trying to organize a meeting in London every month. Unfortunately, I've not been so successful because, you know, I can consider myself lucky when I get 6, 7 people. But also, I think it's important for people to realize that they are powerful instead of delegate their empowerment to other people. Because just think, one single person, you get your own literature. You can get it. You can produce it yourself. You can get it from someone else. I think the important thing is you try to connect what is happening to us to what is happening in the world. I mean, the terror of financial elite, the exploitation, the illegal genocidal war. But if you try to incorporate a narrative that, for instance, Kevin have been illustrating so eloquently in the last couple of days, Nick Begich, Doctor Olle. If you try to incorporate this kind of narrative, then you create your own literature. Then you can, you know, you can go to protest demonstration. You can leaflet to, you know, there's a lot of camaraderie at protest demonstration. You go there, you leaflet, people take your leaflet. You will be surprised how many people are taking your leaflet if you go to a protest or a demonstration, a march. Then you can, you know, you can identify where there is some public place. I personally go to leaflet outside the main entrance of the House of Parliament. People on the continent, we are very close to, well, people in Belgium, the Netherlands can go to the European Commission. They can go leafleting outside the European Parliament. I mean, I think of one single person. He can make himself into a huge nuisance for the system, I mean, because we are used, we are conditioned that they tell us that we are powerless. So when we try to empower ourselves, it's a question of delegating to someone else. So it's like, you empower yourself by focusing on some class action or something someone else is organizing for you. And you don't realize that you can empower yourself. a terrorist thing you can do, you can make a huge nuisance of yourself in a good way to throw a spanner in this kind of murderous kind of system which is in existence. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's impossible for people because since we're small, they teach us, oh, you don't have any power. If you have to get any power, it's through someone else, a political party, a class action, a big event, someone else is organizing for you. I think it's important for people to realize they can do a lot. They can make one single person, they can make themselves a huge nuisance for the system. That's what I have to say.
I have a question for John. I know someone that's a targeted individual, suffers from microwave attacks and gaslighting, things like that. And I wanted to know how best for me to help her, what you thought would be a good idea.
What I can tell you is what we've had the most success with. If she's being attacked with microwave energy, to get on free radical scavengers. And this is, if you pick up a copy of, which by the way, Targeting 101 for Dummies, that's been written. It's called Guinea Pigs, Technologies of Control. And yeah, that apparently it hasn't been that accessible in Europe. It came out in the US about a year ago. And I go through the history of non-consensual experimentation, into targeting, into the methods of targeting, who's being targeted, possibly why they're being targeted, and solutions. So if anything else, if you look at the references, it's all based on government references and classified material. So if you need Targeting for Dummies 101, throw that down in front of somebody, it's all there. What's also there is what we've had success with is using free radical scavengers to help combat the chronic EMF exposure or scalar wave exposure, any type of exposure to that, the electromagnetic field, including scalar, releases free radicals. What makes you sick and tired and ages you quickly and blinds you and makes you sterile are free radicals. And if you get on alpha-lipoic acid, sublingual glutathione, and vitamin D3 in high doses, selenium, those are the top 3 free radical scavengers. That will actually help you survive the attacks. The other thing that we're doing, as you saw Nick Begich put up the Monroe binaural beats to resynchronize the brain. Kind of the route we went on this is that if this is some form of play on Malik's apparatus for remote EEG heterodyning, then you have to have an interference wave in the brain. The only way you can get that is to have one hemisphere operating at one frequency, one hemisphere operating at another frequency. So when we started doing the research, we thought, well, let's use binaural beats at night during REM sleep and during deep delta wave sleep to resynchronize both hemispheres of the brain so the brain is functioning as a whole at one frequency. And when we did that, people got better. People got better with a combination of that and a combination of free radical scavengers. Now, you do have to do that every night. You have to do it while you sleep, and it has to be through earphones. You can't just listen to it out loud. The easy way to do it is there's an iPad or iPhone program called Brainwaves by Bonsai Labs. And it's a very easy program to use. If you don't have an Apple product and you want to use a laptop, you can use Neuroprogrammer 3, which is a neuro-linguistic programming software that actually used to be used by the CIA. And not only can you use it to program somebody, but you can use it to deprogram someone. And that's actually the program that Colin Ross and I used in several true MK Ultra victims from the 60s that we got in really bad psychiatric condition from CIA programming. So that if she does those 2 things, and the third thing, you have to ignore the voice to skull. And some people get voice to skull. Some people get more what I call an ELF wave transmission audio, which isn't, you're not hearing it in your head, but you're hearing it in vibrations from a ceiling fan or vibrations from a vent fan in a bathroom or vibrations as a jet goes by and moves air. And that's a type of, it's still directed to you specifically, but you're not truly hearing it in your head. You're hearing it like a whisper coming from a window afar. It's still clear to one person because it's directed at one person. It's very important that you learn how to ignore those conversations. The reason they're bombarding you with speech 24/7 is to keep your brain entrained. And if you never learn how to break the entrainment, you'll never break free. And that we have found. The people that are successful at not responding back and ignoring the audio typically break free. And once they can't entrain you, they can't attack you either, because that's the way we think they're finding you, unless you're chipped.
I think in general, so when you are attacked, you start looking for protection. And it's logical. I mean, that's the way we've been raised. You're attacked and you look for protection. But I think you should not do that to the max. You should not only look for protection, but being attacked is also trying to learn. I mean, in the beginning, when I was attacked, I thought, this is crazy, this is crazy. But at a certain moment, I was saying to myself, attack me, attack me, attack me, because I know for sure that after a certain moment, my brain can handle it. My brain can handle it, so come on, attack me. And it took me 5 years, okay. But I can separate the attacks from my other thoughts. And the same is true, this is a little bit more about gang stalking attacks, but when you are attacked with these horrible microwaves and horrible pressure weapons, ultrasound weapons, it's horrible. It's accepting that you have pain. Yeah? Normally when you have pain, you go to a doctor. You should not go to a doctor. Why? Because you're radiated and the next moment they put it away and then you don't have pain. So why should you go to a doctor? It's horrible. It's accepting that you have pain and that this pain will go away. If the pain does not go away and you will get a red spot here, take a picture and think, should I go to a doctor? Yeah? But if you have nothing here, don't go to a doctor and accept that there is pain, because we know there is no solution. If you go to a police and you say there's pain, and the police says, whoa, we see nothing. So accept that you are attacked and accept that you will have pain. In the beginning I built this whole construction in my home when I was attacked with these microwave weapons, etc. And I built walls of water and a metal sheet, and every time I protected myself more. I made the wall first 1 pack of water, then 2 packs, 3 packs, more metal shields. But every time I did more, I was more attacked. Yeah? So in general, the more you protect yourself, the more they try to attack you harder. You're just punished. I mean, you just get punished by being smart. Yeah? So at a certain moment, I decided I do all my protection away, and now I only have a limited metal sheet, which seriously helps very much. But I also suffer pain. Yeah, well, that's too bad. I have pain at certain moments, but I can work with pain. I can live with pain, because I separate pain from when I'm writing a Word document. I can cook a meal when I have pain. Yeah? And I think many people in the world have pain, and I hope one day this pain for all of us will disappear. And this problem will be solved, but until that moment, we will have pain. And some have more pain, and some have less pain, but we will have pain, and we got to live with this and not run away from it.
I've got just one question. I wanted to ask if somebody tried to work with the neurophone for Mr. Flanagan, an inventor from USA, who invented this machine in the 50s, and I think it permits you to hear with the inner ear, with 2 electrodes, and I don't know if somebody knows about it. I thought it would be very good known. and I will receive one in some days, I hope. And I think it could be a way to show to other people the feeling to hear with the inner ear. So without ears, but with electricity on your body, decoded on the inner ear to understand messages in this particular way. So do somebody have some experience with this machine, neurophone?
Who wants to answer? Neurophone?
Yes, I have experience with the neurophone, and it's using ultrasonic hearing. It's actually using bone conduction hearing, and what it is you put 2 leads on the body, and I know what you've read says that you can put 2 leads anywhere on the body and still hear it in your head. It doesn't work as good as they say. I own one. And you do have to put the leads pretty closely to the skull to get it, and you still do get some actual external hearing other than bone conduction through it. And the way that works, it is driving ultrasonic sound through the skull, so you're actually picking it up in the neuro apparatus of the middle ear to hear it. And it does work to an extent, but not the way as well as you're thinking. And I don't think it's even in production anymore. I know they're making a version of it, but it's not actually the original neurophone. Where the neurophone kind of came into play for us is with some of the MK Ultra victims. We were actually using initially binaural beats through a neurophone to bypass the external ear. So we were putting it directly in the brain, and it did work pretty well for that. It scares people a little bit when you use it for reprogramming, because most of the neurophone's use is associated with programming and bad programming done by the CIA. So it does work. I guess it probably would work if you wanted to demonstrate putting voices in somebody's head. Now they can still hear it, like I said, as it's coming from an external source. You can actually hear, if you're playing the radio or you're playing a CD through the 2 electrodes, you can hear it vibrate off of those electrodes and hear it externally as well as in your head. So if you wanted a device, I'm assuming what you're asking is a device where you can just show people that voices can be put in the head, go online, get an audio spotlight system. That does it far better than the neurophone. And actually, like I said, the neurophone I don't think you can get now. Not on its original, the way it's originally made. I think they call it an ectophone now or something, and it's not the same construct. But if you get an audio spotlight, that uses infrasonic sound. And audio spotlighting is a rectangular antenna, and I've used this to demonstrate voice to skull with people that are non-believers. And you have to have line of sight with that, but you can actually point it, I could point it at you and a crowd of people and have only you hear what I'm saying to you. It won't work in a very quiet room because, again, you can actually hear some of the transmission coming from the antenna, but in a room like this where there's ambient sound, that will be masked, and none of the people around you are going to hear what I'm actually transmitting to you. And it's called Audio Spotlight. It's available in, I think, 3 different size antennas. One you can actually mount on the ceiling and get everybody in a room. A little smaller one they're using in Japan now, where you step in front of a Coca-Cola machine and all of a sudden a voice is saying, drink Coca-Cola, you're going to love Coca-Cola. And then they make a smaller one that you can actually spotlight people with. But you can look that up. It's called Audio Spotlight. If you're looking to prove to somebody that there's a way to put voices in somebody's head, that's technology that's available to anybody if you're willing to spend the money.
Okay, we're taking 3 more questions and then we're going to wrap it up, but I think the lady in orange there was trying to pose a question for a long time, so I'll give it to her.
So I'd like to talk about 2 points. The first one would be the evidence. So somebody there said, don't be concerned with evidences. In spite of that, everybody asks for evidences, for proofs. So all my friends and my family love me, but nobody believes me. Nobody believes me. So courts demand for proofs, lawyers demand for proofs, doctors, they ask proofs, evidences. So how can we deal? Of course, we know that all these horrors are performed by services who are specialized in working without evidence. So we turn around in a kind of vicious circle. So how to manage with this question of the evidence? That's my first point. And the second point is I have several proposals for solutions. I think somebody here spoke already about federation of all existent associations. So we have associations in each of our countries, but we should maybe federate, coordinate all these associations in a single one, international or European in a first step. And all these associations fighting against torture and electronic harassment, and to have a committee, maybe an elected committee, to establish contacts between all the members and to provide lists with our all references in order to keep in touch with each other, and to inform the public opinion by different ways, and to deal with the have a political fight. For example, what was proposed by the organizers of this Congress, a letter sent to the European Parliament, to some other institutions like the United Nations, the European Court of Human Rights, and so on, Amnesty International. So a common letter signed by 700 or 7,000 persons all around the world. Not only one or two or small groups talking or complaining to each other, but to federate and to have a real committee and to have a real structure, powerful, because our strength is to be united, and the solidarity and the unity. We don't have any other meaning, as far as I've listened very carefully what was talked here, and everybody with his experience and with his expertise, but we don't have solutions other than our solidarity. And also this federation should provide help to each other. What kind of help? Medical help. We need doctors. We need experts in radiation disease. For example, in my country, in Romania, there is no specialist, there is none who would be specialized in irradiation disease. Nothing, no laboratories, nothing. We need law advice. We need a group of lawyers or in this federation to advise and to fight. We need also material and moral support, to find sponsors and moral support, because all these victims, we are here, we complain to each other, this is horrible. So I'm irradiated from 10 up to 20 times every day, total body radiation. Maybe I will die in some weeks or in some months. So we need to be together in an international federation. And last but not least, of course, a psychological support. So this is important, not psychiatrists who are diagnosed in their pockets, but we need a real psychological support, because torture is associated with depression and immunity system depression also. So we need both medical and psychological and law and material support. Thank you.
Take two more. Okay, thank you so much. My name is Henok, and I'm originally from Ethiopia, and I've been living in Sweden 12 years and England 14 years, and I'm working in hospital. I just want to share you how I cope with these things. I've been really gang stalking with my own people, by Ethiopian people, and I didn't know. I have no contact with anyone. Then every morning when I wake up, there is black socks outside my door, by my car, at work, in my shoes. I work on intensive care units, or specialist nurse and public health expert. So wherever I go, they follow me, black socks. And other things at work, they call me thief, just isolating me. Then I didn't know nothing. Then I have to say, I have to find some solution. I collected all these black socks, called the police. The police come to my home and they just throw it away. These socks, nothing to do, just throw them away. Then I said, all right, then this is really, at the end, I read this gang stalking. Then what I did about it, I washed them, all of them socks. I washed all the socks and I started using them. In the evenings when I came from work, I just put the socks on watching TV. When I sleep, I'm using them. I know, before when I saw the socks, it's just my body shaking. You know, I was anxiety, stress, whatever you call it. I never had psychiatric problem, never smoked in my life, never drink in my life. I am church person, uni, work and home. These things is happen because of one girl, which is I know one time she blacklisted me. Then these black socks, I really cured myself by desensitizing myself by using them. Then at work, what's happening? I am ICU, intensive care specialist nurse. Every morning when I go to my work, in my locker, they block me on stool. I took a picture for a month, for a year. I asked other people to witness that one. They took pictures, they took video. Then I went to my manager. My manager is my best friend. Then when we discussed, they said, oh, this must be mentally ill. Let's send him to occupational health. They send me as a crazy man. There is 120 nurses in my hospital. I think they see it. I am one of really the good nurses, they call me. I've got 100 reference, which is the consultant, the surgeon, they wrote it, I'm really one of the best nurses. I took with that the photo to occupational health. I explained my situation. Do you know what he says? He is Henok, is a healthy person, you need to be investigated. I've got all that photo. Then I went to private investigator. I just got letter, everything from everywhere. Because of this, they have to put at work CCTV, just for me, in front of my locker. Then 4 of these nasty people, they in some way disqualified, left the hospital. I am still there. I promote, just few days ago, I promote to higher position. Then what I decided, I have to show for the world, because of these people happen on me, on other Ethiopian people. Then I said, I'm going to write a book about it. Then what I did, I wrote this book. I wrote this book in my language, 5,000 for charity. I said, I'm not going to get money of this. I'm going to give it for charity. Then, nobody want to sell it in Addis Ababa. No, you know, in Africa, people carry book and sell it. I think they scare all of them. Nobody touch it, nobody sell it. Then I found for 200 people, I sent my book around the world for Ethiopian to read it. Then one of the most famous journalists, who is Alam Nawase, he decided to read it on radio, online. The last 2 weeks now, the most popular news is in my book in Ethiopia about gang stalking. Then, guess, I don't know about in MIT, IQ person. 35,000 people have seen it, my page, within just 2 weeks. And I'm going to make a movie of that. I'm going to pay for that. Then I'm going to, it's written now December in English. I don't want to make any money of that. I'll give it for charity. I want to show the world. After I published my book, for the last 2 weeks, 24 Ethiopian people contacted me who have been suffering of it. Most of them girls, who is really attacked by ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, or ex-husband or ex-wife. This is the horrible things. Message for Ethiopian people. You stop these things, I'm getting and cut you. I don't care. You can kill me anytime I'm ready to die. You know, I have donated every part of my organ for the last 20 years for organ donation. I'm not afraid for that. I'm working with that. Thank you.
There was somebody else who wanted the question. No?
I have been a victim to individual since 2007, and it started as simple mobbing at the students at San State University, which had CIA agents recruiting students, and that incident helped me to be in the Switzerland as an asylum status for a while, and that's how I escaped. And in 2007, I started here Boys to Scar, and it was the time I went back to San Jose to pack up my stuffs from my apartment. And at that time, the Department of Defense parking permit attached to cars were around. So my case might be real ones related with Boys to Scar. And what I have done is that I wrote down what those Boys to Scar people said in the books, and I published on the as an ebook online, like 10 books in Japanese and 3 volumes in English version. It's already sold online from download market .com or .coja. And from my experience, it's quite long, like 80 years of Boys to Scar. And I learned that the Boys Scar is just like an echo. I can hear the voices, like human voices, like an echo. Like in the mountain, people can hear it. Like somewhere, people can hear the echo from somewhere. And that's how I can hear those voices. And the funny thing is that I experienced, when I tried the noise cancelling headphones, like the one from Bose, the QC5, QC7, and those are noise cancelling headphones. And I tried that, and it actually worked to reduce the voices, the tone of the noises. So I'm just, I just wanted to know if the complete noise cancelling may help the Boys to Scar tones to be completely gone, because I think because the current version, what the Bose is selling is the ones that they don't cancel the human voice level because of the safety. So it could just help to maybe it could be the solution for those hearing voices problem. Maybe the noise cancelling headphone may reduce the voices or some noises. The people can, the tears can avoid. Like maybe purchasing those noise cancelling headphones from Bose or other companies, that might help to reduce those hearing voice or hearing noise, especially like high-pitched noise for sleep deprivation. Maybe that's how maybe we can just improve something, or maybe we can find solution for those noise. Sorry, just
Do you have any questions?
My name is Edward Katz. I'm lived for about 35 years in Palo Alto, California, right next to the Stanford Research and Stanford Institution. I've been subjected for the experiment which called remote viewing, the entire family. I'm not going to have time to go through all these years of horror devastation, but what would be nice if we all together here have some kind of communication, and probably Facebook would be the best which can unite all of us and make this site like stop it, correct? And I don't know who would be able to do it, probably, yes?
In fact, at least for UCatch, we have already a UCatch public Facebook group. So you're invited to join that I'm managing.
Yeah, the most important is you have to announce this, and the people have to write down the name so they actually can connect it. And you catch, how you spell? Okay, go ahead.
EUCACH. You catch, and we have a Facebook group, a public group.
It's not like stop at?
No, I don't know if Stoppack has one as well. I'm not sure.
That would be easier for everybody to remember.
Okay, but just saying that it exists already for you catch. Okay.
Make just a new site, that's it. And we can be connected. And everybody can write and everybody can support each other. Other than that, it's just we're going to live and that's it. We're going to see you next year. And nothing going to happen. And the most important, we actually could be some kind of force if we're going to be all together. So if it's possible, let's ask Peter or someone else, just to go on Facebook, and make stoppage, and we'll be together. Do you think it's a good idea? Probably not that good idea, yeah, because it's not so many applause. Okay, thanks, Peter. Thank you. Very nice.
Questions? Anybody questions? Okay. Harald.
Roger Tolsis is a specialist, is a private investigator specialized in finding bugs of these surveillance devices. And he is experienced also in the, I think he invented the term electronic harassment. And he must have cages of active shielding. They also form a shape of X. And I think he rents these cages. His name is Roger Tolsis. My reputation, I think it's not so good, but you are very competent people. Can we make a contact with Mr. Tolsis? Is this possible?
Which country is he living?
It's from the States. And he has an internet site. It's called bugsweeps.com. Bugsweeps.com. Roger Tolsis. Thank you.
I have a question. Given that there are a few people of the targeted individuals that want to bring it forward to the public, what this is about, maybe it would be interesting for people who don't know about these advanced technologies to find out about the positive sides as well that come with it. So we have something like a hook that we can put this on. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you have like a suggestion. I mean, what I believe it could possibly be, those could possibly be tools that we could use to educate children in a more easy way, or to have the judges have a better picture of what was happening in a situation. So, so truth plays a bigger role in the future world. What do you think? What do you think this technology will give us, the public, what the tools can be for the future to make it a better world, basically?
Peter is not here, so I would like to try to reply for the first question there was a targeted individual from Romania, and it was nice to hear that you, as targeted individuals, like me and others, need more proof of evidence. That is why I was talking about that in the morning, and it was rather talking. It wasn't a solution and something like that, because, as you know, it's not most likely. I'm not sure about it, because there are some better experts on this field, but it's most likely history that you, me, and others I don't know, have some radio frequency foreign bodies in your body. Probably, most likely, part of you. I don't know how many, but today they changed. If I'm not wrong, probably somebody of our for our speakers or you may correct me, but nowadays they changed the way how to recognize targeted individual when you disappear, for example, in nature. I don't know about your experience. When I heard the experience from Peter, I couldn't believe. He was jogging in his surrounding of his house, and so each I would say each targeted individual needs exercises. Yes, it's very important. And some aircrafts appeared above his head. It was the first time. It was incredible for me. But then I tried the same, and I realized I had some aircrafts above my head. It was incredible. If you say something like that to non-targeted individual, they will mark you as you are crazy, because aircraft would go after you. It's crazy. I am nothing. I am only this small ant, and aircrafts, military aircrafts go after me. I can't say to anybody outside our society, as I would say society of targeted individuals, because if you say something like that, they would mark you as if you are crazy. And that is why we need more and more evidence, yes, proof of evidence. And that I am quite pleased for this question from a targeted individual, Mrs. from Romania, because after I had this lecture in the morning, some people contacted me. Oh, you have some proofs? You are scanned? I didn't realize that part of you don't know about the very good activity that was done by ISECT. And unfortunately, I am talking now about the European part of European director of ISECT. I mean, you know this shortness, this name of organization, or not organization, center. Yes, this you can find it on the internet and so on. And probably part of you have those, or most of you, I don't know, you have those radio frequency foreign bodies. Also, it's partially history, because I have some foreign bodies from 1980s, as you heard in the morning when I had this lecture, and I showed you some letters and some certificates of experts that really he stated that those radio frequency bodies are so-called M chips, and they come from the days of 1980s. And as you realize, I am from the Czech Republic now. It was Czechoslovakia those days, and we were under Soviet Union bloc. It means we were East bloc then that time. So it was probably something different. You probably don't have, but Romania was independent a bit. I don't know whether you were under I don't think so. because Ceausescu was always a bit alone. He didn't want to obey Brezhnev and so on. So probably it's not your case. I'm not sure about that, but a lot of those satellite countries, East Bloc, I think, by Hungary and Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, and so on, Poland, of course, was under influence of the Soviet Union. So we had this, probably this technology after that. And I am from this time. Probably later on they added some more chips. Okay. And I would say.
Yeah. It's almost 7 o'clock. And we still want to do a little bit of an evening program. So I want to ask the speakers, invite the speakers for dinner, then come back for a reflection, which will be an extremely short reaction, and then officially end it. So, but that will be after dinner. I know many people here have traveled from very far. I don't know how many you're leaving, but I also know that many are staying. So, yeah? Okay, sorry.
I want to say just one thing related to this, what this woman said from Romania. She said we need a kind of roof organization, European organization, who is coordinating different things and different actions from the TIs, from Europe. I think this is a good idea, but maybe if we have such an organization, it could be that everyone thinks, okay, these guys are from the organization and they do a lot, or maybe they will do a lot, and I don't have to do anything because they do it for me. This could be a risk, so I don't know, maybe it would be good to have such an organization, but it will be better when many people do many things, and the people should not think, okay, these people from this organization will take all the work from me and I have to do nothing. This is one thing. And the other thing is, it would be good, maybe it would be good if we go home tonight. Before we go home, it would be good to find a kind of forum or to plan to build a kind of forum where we can communicate, because everybody will go home tonight. And maybe we will not meet until next year, or maybe we will never meet. And it could be that, yeah, if we would have an internet forum, maybe on Peter's website or on another website, it could be a platform to communicate for us all and to plan further things, different things for the future.
Yeah, so the question is, are we going to have dinner now and come back? I want to invite the speakers. I know certainly, for example, Olle Johansson also is coming this evening. So if we take a break until 8:15 and then do a short reflection on the day, we have informal talks, and then we call it a day. Officially end the program around 8:15, 8:30. Yeah, is that an idea? So there are nice places here where you can have some small dinner, and you can still meet with other people during this last hours before you all leave. Okay? So then we will meet you here again at 2015, 2030. Thank you very much. Welcome again for this very last part of this very long event, today event. The Conference 2015 is almost to its end now. I think we all learned a lot, and what's left is to ask our speakers to reflect on this. What are their conclusions? What do they see? What was good? What was bad? What could be improved maybe next year? So I want to ask all our speakers to reflect on this. Olle.
I just want to thank you for teaching me so much. There's so much I had absolutely no idea about. You have really opened up my eyes to a reality that I was not aware of. and the pain that I was not aware of. And well, that's about it. I'm very, very glad and honored that I was invited. And if I can help in any way, please contact me. This is not my area at all, but I hope maybe that I've showed a way, or at least showed that fear, whatever it is, fear is their tool. So the more we can let go of fear, the more difficult it is for them to control us.
Well, thank you all for helping educate me. I hadn't ever really gotten to know any TIs before, and I didn't, I knew something about mind control, but not about this particular manifestation of this issue. And it's great to actually to meet everybody here and see the reality up front and see what beautiful people you all are. My wife, for a while, wasn't crazy about me being a 9/11 truth activist because all she knew about it was sort of, she got it from the internet. And then when she came with me on a speaking tour once and actually met the people, she kind of fell in love with them and realized that the people who were pushing these really hard issues are the best people there are. So thank you for the opportunity to meet the best people from all over the world right here in Berlin.
I would like to say one more time that it is up to us to apply pressure on our governments to enact legislation banning the use of mind control technologies, because people who don't have experience with this will not even believe that it's possible. And that if we don't apply this pressure, the governments will be comfortable with having this technology and using it. So please think about it, how we can make acquainted the general public with what's happening, with what technologies are available, etc.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me too. I also learned a lot from everyone. I have had a lot of conversations with people here, and yesterday it was suggested by a man that you should form some kind of society. I think that's a very good idea actually, but also maybe that the society as such would develop some form of working groups. You have pointed to human rights actions, to legal actions, to science actions and so on. And next meeting you have, maybe you should set a much more strict goal or aim for that particular meeting, and that you should reach, for instance, some kind of official statements or resolutions or contacts with the human rights levels. And also Dr. Babáček was pointing to the possibility to make very simple and cheap experiments. We talked about that yesterday. I would very much favor it, and I realized that we cannot put judges to sleep because there could be legal aspects of that, but mice and rats, they do sleep too. And just such a demonstration would open up an avenue, because I repeat that I think very many people in society still will not allow themselves to believe in you because it's too scary to even think about the possibility. So they are afraid to even ponder that possibility, and I think you need to maybe go ahead. At the same time, it's not your responsibility. You are in pain and agony and frustration, and you are in anxiety and maybe even afraid, and you have too much to deal with. Society should really support and help you to its best of its capacities. And I walked around today in Berlin and thought a lot about your situation, and it mimics very much the situations that people have with electron hypersensitivity. There was a time when they were extremely badly treated, even in countries like Sweden. But then someone, and it was so simple and it was so quick, someone wrote a letter to the minister in charge of health and welfare at the time, and just asked him if electron hypersensitivity is to be considered a functional impairment. And he said yes. And the second question was, are there any exceptions for people with electrohypersensitivity compared to other groups with functional impairments? And he said, no. And from that moment on, they were completely all the way through the society acknowledged they were recognized as a group with a functional impairment. And they got subsidies from the Swedish government. For instance, I think it's in the order of 2 million Swedish crowns right now, which would be a little bit more than 200,000 euros per year. And they use that to work for their rights, including human rights and other rights in the Swedish as well as international society. And they have a right to meet and discuss, etc., etc. I mean, they are completely recognized from that point of view. And it just took a few lines in a letter to solve this issue. They kind of pressed the right balance, and it solved and dissolved itself quickly. I don't say that it's easy to be electrohypersensitive in Sweden, but it's far easier than it used to be. So maybe you need to sit down and think and construct very discrete aims where you want to go. And sometimes when I have had discussions with you, I'm a little bit confused. I don't hear exactly where people want to see themselves, like in 5 years' time, or 2 years' time, or 1 year's time. Maybe you need to vocalize that as a group. But I say, as Olle said, if I in any way could do anything, I will try to do it. But of course, it's difficult. I realize that too. Thank you so much.
I think the main thing I'd like to press upon people is that don't look at yourself as victims, but look at yourselves as advocates or soldiers in a war for free will. There's no such thing as a small victory. Any victory is a positive victory and going in the right direction. And the best example I can give to you on that is in 2008, when my first book came out. I would say probably 90% of my colleagues thought I was crazy for writing it. My attorney called me crazy outright for writing it and said that I'd be risking losing my license. 6 months after that book came out, I was sitting with Representative Jim Guest, a Republican from Missouri, convincing him that all of this was true, who went on 3 months after that to pass laws against non-consensual chipping in the state of Missouri, with Michigan not falling too far behind after that. So you know what's real, you know what's going on. None of you are insane, none of you are crazy. You have to keep that in your heart, that you know the truth, and keep on purporting that truth and following that truth and making other people understand it, even if it's one person at a time. One person at a time still gets you one person down the road for people believing this. And it really is up to all of us as a group. There's not going to be one person or one group that's going to go out and change the world and make all this go away. It's going to take us as a whole to do it.
Thank you, John. Harald, is a speaker? Okay, for me the conference was very nice. I'm very happy to be here and that I could be with you. I think this was the biggest conference or the biggest TI meeting Germany has ever seen. And also I have never seen so many TIs on one place. So this is a real big thing for me, and I think for us all it was a good feeling to be here and to meet each other and to make contacts. And I hope we will continue making contacts and working together and staying in contact and making different projects for the future, actions, demonstrations, I don't know what, writing letters to politicians or measurements, doing measurements or something. We need to do a lot, and I think it's important that we all can work together. And for the conference, I hope there will be many conferences in the future, and for the next conference I hope that the team will be a little bit bigger, because I think it was very much work, especially for Peter and for Beata. It was really much to do, and I think sometimes it's a little bit too much for one person. So he's done great work here with the conference, and I'm so glad. Thank you.
me it's difficult to speak after one of the main organizer, because you are in Germany and Harald was one of the main organizer with Peter and Beata and so on. But anyway, I must say, I wasn't here, unfortunately, last year, so some of you were here last year and you have some experience from last year, and it's easier for you to compare last year and this year, so I'm not in this position, but it influenced me very much, and I am pleased to be together with so many talented individuals. It's for the first time in my life. It's so many talented individuals in one day or 2 days. And so many friendly people. It's important, I guess, because I'm talking about personal relations. Everybody knows that it's not easy to find so many friendly people, as we are targeted individuals, so they these perpetrators like to isolate us and so on. So I'm bound by gratitude to Peter, to Beata, to Melanie, to 4 organizers, I guess you might not wrong, 4 organizations that make this
Eva,
nice.
also Eva.
Eva.
Was also part. Ewa Pawela?
Yes, but I'm talking about organizations of StopZ, organization. I'm not familiar probably. And Stopek and I forgot.
And Jukac.
Jukac. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Madam Jukac. Yes. So it was very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, we're not going to do any questions anymore. So question and answers is finished. You still want to say one?
Peter, one more question. I would like to repeat that I strongly believe that there is a good chance that the action I was proposing could succeed in the European Union, but only in the case that it is not only 2 or 3 nations or 2 or 3 national organizations who would participate in it, because the European Union is 28 nations, and 2 nations is just too little to succeed. There should be more national organizations around Europe, in all European countries, that would do the same thing at the same time. And then it might succeed, and there is a chance, I believe.
I just remembered one thing that I find very important, and that it's easy, and I do the same mistake myself often. We heard that if you write a letter to the central administration of the United States, you may end up in a file or 2, and that's probably correct. In Sweden you don't. I can only really talk about Sweden, but one thing, I often get copies of letters that people have written to the Swedish government, the parliament, and different authorities. And the letters could be like more than 100 pages thick. That's at least 99 pages too many. You need to boil it down to at most, I would say, half a page. And that would still be a pretty long letter. And also in the letter, remember that don't be shy. You know, I'm married, I have a fantastic, lovely wife, but she's sometimes a little bit female in her way of talking to me. And instead of saying straight to me what she wants, she starts talking about that, well, it's nice, you know, and I wonder if they have, and blah, blah, blah. And I asked her, what do you want? Well, you know, and see, and we could, and what do you want? I want to have a cup of tea. And when you write to at least the Swedish authorities, governments, parliaments, they're mostly containing men, and they don't understand very long letters, so be extremely clear. And if you ask something, it should only be questions that could be answered with yes, no, or a number, like 3 or 5 or 17. Nothing else. And when I get many of these letters, and I think I'm pretty good in reading, often I just cannot understand what people want. I sit there, and then I think, Jesus, if I was a head of a department or an authority or a government or something, I would sit there and also scratch my head and think, what do they want actually? So remember that, be clear, don't be shy. And in Sweden, a very uncommon word when I'm trying to teach Swedes is the word no. It cannot be misunderstood. No more of this. No. And I have seen that when people are straightforward and clear, very often they get exactly what they want to have. When my wife says, I want a cup of tea, she gets a cup of tea.
Two little things, just to quote some famous people. Be the change you want to see, and the one you've been waiting for is you. We all have to look in the mirror and be the ones who make the difference.
Thank you, Ole. As a last question, very still, there will be this one last question.
Yeah, I believe it's a very important question we spoke about. John, can you share this knowledge to everybody around about the resolution in Richmond, California? What has changed?
The question he had asked me earlier was the resolution that we brokered with the City Council in Richmond, California regarding electronic harassment. In the state of California, in times past, at least in that particular city, in the whole state, but in that city too, if you called the authorities voicing complaints of electronic harassment, typically the police would come, consider you what they call a 5150 by California state law as a danger to yourself or others because you're voicing the complaint of hearing voices and possibly being stalked. So with that in mind, and knowing that was happening to a lot of the victims, we actually met with the mayor and the chief of police and the city council in Richmond, California. They all got copies of both of my books. I talked to them in person and via Skype along with Jesse Beltran and many other members of ISAC on several meetings, with that culminating in the fact with them recognizing organized stalking and electronic harassment as a crime, not a mental illness. And he had asked me what good had actually come from that recognition, because the city council did get hammered in the national media once the national media got hold that a city council had agreed with the tinfoil hat people that they were being persecuted and weren't mentally ill. They did stand fast behind us and honored their agreement, and what we did was give them basically a list of things to look for when the police go on a call. And if these people are complaining that their place has been broken into, that they're hearing voices or being attacked by energy that they can't see, that rather than referring them to a psychiatrist or loading them into the car and taking them in, to refer them to assets that we have with ISAC. So those people, especially if they were unknown to us and were new victims, have somebody to talk to that can explain to them what the technology is and circumvent an unnecessary trip to a psychiatrist to further victimize them. That being said, what we did agree with the authorities, though, is when they were showing up to a household, if that person is saying something like, I know it's my neighbor and I'm going over there to kill him, then we said by all means you load that person up and you take them in. Because certainly what we don't want is any more violent interactions or mass shootings that we've seen with people claiming they did it because they're hearing voices telling them to do it. So it was kind of a trade-off with authorities, and I think a win-win for both sides. Because if somebody is truly expressing violent behavior, certainly they can, intercede with them before violence happens, which we don't want to happen. But if they're just complaining of the typical targeting stuff and are obviously a target, then they're not being shipped off to a psychiatrist who's going to victimize them either. So, and that's where it comes in the small victories. That's one city in California, but it's also being duplicated next week in Phoenix with a group of TIs in Phoenix that are meeting with their city council doing the same thing. And that's what we're hoping to duplicate that in a lot of major cities and make it a little harder for these perpetrator groups to do their jobs.
Can I say something just about what you said just half a minute?
Come on, Peter. Come on.
You just said that you counsel, you advise people, and if you and your board think that they are really mentally ill, to go to a psychiatric, to treatment. But I think that some of us, targeted individuals, we are not mentally ill, but over the years, we get a little bit mentally ill, and some of us, as some problems, also socializing with others, have a normal life, a normal relationship, because you get really paranoid over the years.
No, and once they get to our organization, once they voice these complaints and the police come, once they come to us, we don't send them to a psychiatrist, we work with them. What we're doing is keeping the police from taking these people to a psychiatrist, because when the police issue you in California a 5150, you're going to get a 3-day stay in the hospital and you're going to get evaluated whether you want it or not. That's a forced evaluation. So what's happening is, unless you're threatening to kill yourself or threatening to kill another person over your targeting, you're going to be sent to us and then we work with you. We don't send you to a psychiatrist, not from ISAC. We work with you as a targeted individual. What we're avoiding is the police taking you to a psychiatrist, because that is a whole different story in California.
Okay, no, sorry.
This is actually extremely interesting, because in the 80s and 90s in Sweden, people with the functional impairment, electrohypersensitivity, they were accused of actually just being should we say, aberrant. They had some kind of psychology or psychiatry going on, and that was the actual reason for their behavior. And then they were actually a group sent to the Department of Applied Psychology at the Uppsala University, one of the oldest universities in the world actually, and they were found to be completely normal. And they only differed in one aspect from the normal Swedish population. Namely, it turned out that they could withstand harassments a little bit better. It's like when you kick your dog, it gets used to it. And they had been kicked by, physicians and media, etc. So they kind of waited for that all the time, but otherwise they were completely normal. And then the idea brought forward that, well, maybe it's actually the environment that isn't normal. And the rest is history. Today they are, of course, protected by the UN Special Human Rights Act for people with functional impairments, etc., etc., etc. So I do hope that you will soon in the future adopt similar regulations as for electrohypersensitivity, because I must say, all the people I met here today, to me you seem very normal.
We will not have any question and answers. I mean, in a few moments you can just talk to the speakers, because they will be walking around here or running away. I don't know what will happen. I want to. Sorry, no question. No, we can talk in a minute. Yeah? So, what's left at the moment? I want to thank you. Yes, I started with thanking you all for coming. Yeah, and I want to thank you all, wonderful, beautiful people who came to this conference, and I hope we all learned. I learned a lot, and I hope you learned a lot, and that we all stay in contact with each other. I want to thank our beautiful, wonderful speakers. You were all wonderful, and well, I can only say wonderful that you were here, fantastic that you were here. It was a beautiful event, well, for me and I think for most people. So I want to thank, maybe we can give a hand to John Hall, Ole Johansson, Babáček, Ole Dammegard, Barrett, Harald, Brems, and Brems. We have something small to give you all, a reminder of the COVID-19 conference of this year. It's just a very small present. We hope we will meet you all again in future sometime. Yeah, you drink your tea now from this cup. Even this cup, only this cup.
It's your cannabis.
John, thank you very much. Harald, of course. Harald, cool. Good stuff, thank you very much. And then there's, of course, one group of people who have been very important, and those are the people who helped organize the conference. Beata. Ewa is unfortunately not here, so that's it. Okay, well, we can just walk around here, maybe talk a little bit, and then we all go home. And tomorrow we call each other and continue. Let's solve this problem all together. Thank you very much, people.